The Quiet Memory. Part 1. Childhood streets. A young boy walks slowly down a quiet street. It's the end of the day, and the sun is beginning its slow descent towards the horizon. The sky is filled with hues of orange, pink, and purple, casting long shadows from the buildings lining the road. He stops outside a small shop, its window display filled with toys and trinkets that catch his eye. A bell above the door tinkles as he pushes it open, stepping inside. The interior is dimly lit, the air thick with the scent of spices and incense. The boy wanders through the narrow aisles, his eyes wide with wonder at the vibrant colors and exotic goods on display. He emerges back onto the street, clutching a small bag. As he walks away, the sound of his footsteps echoing in the stillness. The setting sun paints the sky in shades of crimson and gold, creating a peaceful, almost sacred atmosphere. The boy kicks a stone down the road, watching as it skips along the cracked pavement. His laughter rings out, echoing in the empty street. He stops to examine an insect, its wings shimmering in the last rays of sunlight. Lost in his own world, oblivious to the passage of time. As dusk settles, the sky deepens to a rich indigo, the stars beginning to peek through the darkness. Fireflies start to appear, their tiny lights twinkling like fallen stars. The boy runs, his silhouette outlined against the darkening sky, the faint glow of the street lamp illuminating his joyful face. He slows to a stop, leaning against a wall, his breath forming small clouds in the cool night air. The silence is broken only by the distant sound of a dog barking. The boy looks up at the sky, his eyes filled with wonder at the endless expanse of darkness sprinkled with countless stars. The memory fades, leaving behind a sense of peace and tranquility. The once bustling street now stands empty, deserted. The echo of the boy's laughter, the only reminder of the joy that once filled these spaces. In the heart of the village, a lone cat slinks through the narrow alleys, its eyes gleaming like golden coins in the darkness. The air is still, the only sound the rustling of leaves in the trees that line the cobblestone streets. A weathered wooden door creaks open, revealing a woman's face framed by the soft glow of an oil lamp. Steps out into the night, her silhouette outlined against the light, and disappears around the corner. As the darkness deepens, the village seems to come alive with unseen energy. Shadows stretch and twist, taking on shapes of their own in the flickering lamplight. A group of cats gathers in the square, their eyes reflecting the light, their presence adding an eerie stillness to the night. The wind whispers through the trees, carrying with it the scent of jasmine and honeysuckle. An owl hoots in the distance, its call echoing in the stillness. The full moon rises, casting an ethereal glow over the village, bathing the rooftops and chimney stacks in silver light. In the quiet solitude of the night, the village reveals its hidden beauty, a symphony of shadows, scents and sounds that create an atmosphere of mystery and enchantment. The tranquility is palpable, inviting those who wander its streets to lose themselves in the timeless embrace of the night. And so the memory fades, leaving behind a lingering sense of nostalgia and the faint echoes of a simpler time. The village bathed in the warm glow of sunset or the silvery light of the moon becomes a canvas for the heart and mind to wander, to remember, and to dream. Part 2. You wake up in your own bed. The morning is dark, but you can see the faint outlines of things in the room. You try to remember what happened last night, but there's nothing. It's a blank slate. Then you hear it, a loud honk. You know that sound? It's the old ferry that crosses the strait every morning at 8 a.m. sharp. And right now it's 7:59. You throw off the blankets, get out of bed, knowing you only have a minute to get yourself together before you have to leave the house. But where are you? As you look around the room, you start to piece things together. The walls are painted a faded blue, the kind of blue that reminds you of the sky just before sunset. There's a calendar on the wall with the days of the week written in faded black marker. Today's day is circled. Next to it, a picture of two polar bears holding hands on a glacier. Underneath the calendar, a shelf with a TV remote, some old magazines, and an unplugged lamp. On the other side of the room, a single white shoe sits on the floor next to a half-open suitcase. This must be where you were staying, but why? As you walk over to the window, the morning light begins to pour in, and you can see the town below. Small houses huddle close together on the hillside, their rooftops patched with moss and lichen. The main street is just beginning to stir. Lone car drives by. A bakery down the road has opened its shutters for the day. Someone is hanging laundry on a line. A dog barks in the distance. Children's laughter echoes between the buildings. The air is filled with the smell of pine and wood smoke. You feel a sudden pang of longing, a deep desire to be part of this world, to walk among these people, to breathe in the crisp air and feel the sun on your skin. But something is missing. You can't quite put your finger on it. As you turn away from the window, you notice a door across the room that wasn't there before. Curiosity piqued. You cross the room and push it open. It's a kitchen. Sunlight streams through the window above the sink, illuminating motes of dust dancing in the air. An old woman stands at the counter, her back to you, kneading dough with flour-dusted hands. She's humming a tuneless melody. The dough she is working with is smooth and elastic. She rolls it out into a sheet and places it in a greased pan. Her movements are slow and deliberate, like a ritual performed countless times before. Every so often, she stops to wipe her forehead with a blue dishcloth or adjust the dough with a gentle pat. On the stove, a kettle whistles merrily, sending ripples of steam across the worn enamel surface. The air is thick with the scent of yeast and sugar, warm and inviting. From the cupboard above the sink, she takes down a loaf of bread, its crust golden-hued and glistening. She slices it in half and begins to butter the cut surfaces, her hands moving with a practiced grace. As she works, she hums to herself, and you find yourself enveloped in the warmth of the moment, wrapped in the soft glow of the kitchen and the golden light of the rising sun. For a brief moment, everything feels right in the world. Then suddenly, she turns around. Her face is lined and weathered like an old tree, but her eyes are bright and clear. She looks at you and smiles, a smile that crinkles the corners of her eyes and speaks of countless joys and sorrows endured. And then you remember. This is your mother's kitchen. Faint outlines of memories flood back. The taste of her bread still fresh in your mouth, the feel of her calloused hand on your cheek, the sound of her laughter echoing in your ears. You take a step towards her and she reaches out. Her touch is familiar and comforting as the scent of baking bread. In that instant, all the pieces fall into place. The missing piece of the puzzle, the reason you were drawn to this place, the longing in your heart. It was the memory of her love that brought you here. And as you stand there enveloped in her embrace, you know that you have found exactly where you were meant to be. This is a story about a quiet memory. It's actually part 3 of a series, but if you haven't seen the other 2 parts, just don't worry, because each part can be watched individually. And this first part starts right now. A young boy adjusts his oversized blazer, walks slowly down a rural path and makes his way to school. His black satchel slung over his shoulder bounces lightly with each step. As he walks, dry, crispy autumn leaves crunch softly under his shoes. A gentle wind blows fallen leaves across the path ahead of him. Sun shines brightly, casting long shadows from the trees lining the road. The boy pulls his collar tighter around his neck. He shivers slightly and continues walking at a slow pace. The trees create a tunnel overhead, the path is empty, and the air is still. All is quiet. The boy stops when he reaches the end of the path. Before him stands a brick school building with a large wooden door. Taking a deep breath, he adjusts his glasses, straightens his cap, and walks up to the door. Placing his hand on the cool surface of the wood, he hesitates for a moment before pushing it open and stepping inside. The bell rings loudly, echoing through the hallway. Startled, the boy jumps and quickly makes his way down the hallway. He walks past rows of closed doors, each with a nameplate indicating a classroom. As he walks, soft voices can be heard from behind the closed doors. The sound of children's laughter and chatter fills the hallway. The boy quickens his pace, his footsteps echoing in the vast space. He continues walking until he reaches a classroom at the end of the hall. Taking a deep breath, he reaches out and opens the door, revealing a lively classroom filled with students and a teacher writing on the blackboard. The boy walks slowly into the classroom, his eyes wide with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. He carries his satchel in front of him, his fingers tightly gripping the strap. The students turn their heads to look at him as he enters, their eyes curious. The teacher turns from the blackboard, a kind smile on his face, and asks, "Well, hello there. You ready to start your first day of school?" The boy nods shyly, still clutching his satchel. The teacher gestures for him to come closer. "What's your name, son?" he asks gently. The boy takes a deep breath and responds quietly, "Joseph." The teacher beams. "Well, Joseph, it's nice to meet you. Come on in and find a seat." Joseph slowly makes his way to an empty desk. still holding his satchel close. He sits down heavily, his eyes scanning the room. As he settles into his seat, the bell rings, signaling the start of class. Joseph takes a deep breath, trying to calm his racing heart. The students begin taking out their books and notebooks, their whispers filling the classroom. The teacher, with a stack of papers in his hand, moves around the room, stopping at each student's desk to hand them a worksheet. Joseph watches as the students begin writing, their pencils scratching on the paper. He looks down at his desk, noticing his hands are shaking slightly. Taking a deep breath, he reaches out and takes the worksheet from his desk. His fingers trembling, he lifts the pencil above the paper and begins to write. As Joseph writes, the camera slowly zooms out, revealing an overhead shot of the classroom. The soft glow of the overhead light illuminates the rows of desks and the teacher standing at the blackboard. The students are engrossed in their work, their pencils moving swiftly across the pages. The gentle scratching of pencils on paper fills the air, accompanied by the soft murmur of students whispering to their classmates. Outside, the wind rustles the leaves, creating a peaceful atmosphere. Inside, Joseph continues writing, his initial nervousness fading away as he focuses on the task at hand. The quiet memory of his first day of school continues. Hey, thanks for watching. Do you have any quiet memories from your childhood? Share them in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing for more content like this. Have a great day. Part 4. A living room dimly lit by a lamp on a side table. It's the 1960s. A father sits in an armchair. Opposite him is a woman, and between them on a coffee table is a boy, both looking down at their laps. The only sound is that of a radio playing quietly from somewhere off screen. The father takes a drag from his pack of cigarettes and blows out a smoke ring. It hangs in the air for a moment before dissipating into the gloom. He turns back to the radio, lost in thought. The woman and the boy remain motionless, their gazes fixed on the carpet. The father leans forward, as if to get a better hearing of the radio. The camera follows his movement, getting a glimpse of the radio for the first time. It's an old wooden console radio, its dials and tuning knobs worn smooth with age and use. The father reaches out a hand, fingers curled around the edge of the radio's wooden casing. His thumb brushes against a dog-eared page of a magazine protruding from the radio's speaker grill. He withdraws his hand as if startled. The magazine falls shut. The father looks down at it, then back up at the radio. After a long silence, he reaches out again, this time pushing the tuning knob. The radio crackles in response. Static. The father stops, inhales, then lets out a long breath and pulls his chair back from the radio. He closes his eyes for a moment, lost in reverie. When he opens them again, there's a distant look in them, a look of one who is hearing sounds no one else can hear. The radio continues to play, its sound competing with the distant murmur of traffic and the hum of a refrigerator somewhere in the house. The father remains motionless, his body still and his face impassive. The woman and the boy are still as statues. The only evidence of life in the room is the rise and fall of the father's chest as he breathes and the faint glow of his cigarette. The radio plays on, filling the room with its comforting glow and the murmur of voices from another time. The camera slowly pulls away, taking in the entire room, the motionless figures in the foreground. The old radio on the coffee table, the half-smoked cigarette hanging from the father's lips, the flickering lamp on the side table, the boy's forgotten teddy bear slumped in the corner. The camera continues to pull away, the room getting smaller and smaller until it's nothing more than a faded memory. The radio becomes a whisper, then a sigh, then nothing. Only the echo of voices from another time. Silence. Part 5 will be out soon. If you haven't seen the previous parts, they will be linked in the description below. The director wants you to know that this is a labor of love, and that your support really means a lot. He also wants to apologize for any mistakes or inconsistencies in the script. He's still learning, and your feedback helps a lot. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Part 5. A glimpse of her. You know, I remember the first time I ever saw you. It was a quiet night in the city. I was walking down a nearly empty street, and then I heard some music coming from an open doorway. So I stopped to listen, and that's when I saw you sitting in the doorway. You were with a group of friends, and they were all laughing and talking. but I couldn't hear what you were saying. The only sound I could hear was the music and the distant hum of the city. I stood there listening for what felt like hours, even though it was probably only a few minutes. And then you turned to look at me, and I looked away. I didn't want you to see me staring at you. I was too shy. But then you smiled, and the music stopped, and suddenly the alley was silent. And I saw the wind move your hair. And I saw the blush on your cheeks, and I thought, I must be dreaming, because in that moment, everything else around me disappeared. There was only you and the music. Then when you turned away again, I slowly started to fade away too, back into the busy city, back into my lonely life. All I had was that one fleeting glimpse of you, and yet sometimes that is all it takes to remember someone forever. There are so many moments in life that we wish we could hold on to, just a little longer, just a little tighter. Moments that make us feel alive, moments that make us feel something. But they slip through our fingers like grains of sand, and all we have left is the memory of them. I find myself thinking about you a lot lately. I wonder if you ever think about me. Do you remember that day? Do you remember the way the light hit your hair just right as you walked down the stairs? Do you remember the sound of your laughter echoing in the empty courtyard? Or do you remember the way we talked for hours on end about nothing and everything? Do you remember the way the world seemed to stop whenever you were near? I know it's silly, but sometimes I like to imagine what would have happened. If we had stayed in that moment just a little bit longer, what would we be doing now? Where would we be? Would you still be smiling at me the way you did that day? It's funny how a single moment can have so much power over us, how a single memory can bring back a rush of emotions. Just thinking about you makes me feel all those old feelings come flooding back. The butterflies in my stomach, the racing of my heart, the way my whole body lights up with just the thought of you. But you're not here. You never have been, and maybe that's for the best. Maybe it was just a dream, a daydream, a fantasy. Maybe it wasn't real. Maybe it was just a figment of my imagination. But if it wasn't real, then why does it feel so real now? Why does it feel like you're here with me right now? I close my eyes, and I try to picture you sitting in that doorway again. I imagine the wind moving through your hair, the blush on your cheeks, the way you looked at me. And for a moment, just a moment, I can almost feel you here with me. Almost hear you laughing. Almost feel you touching me. But then I open my eyes, and you're gone. And all I have left is the memory of you. A quiet memory in a busy city. A memory that brings a smile to my face and a warmth to my heart. A memory that I will hold on to forever. Because even though you may be gone, the memory of you will always be here. Hello, welcome back to another episode. I hope you enjoyed this short film. If you did, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more content. Also, be sure to check out the links in the description below. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Part 6. Writing letters at night. The wind outside was growing colder, but inside it was still warm. The fire in the hearth had gone out, leaving only glowing embers. But the candles on the desk were still burning brightly. One candle for each box of memories. I lit the first one and began to read. It was a story about a young man who fell in love with a princess, but he was too shy to tell her. Every day he would write her a love letter, but every day he would hide it in his jacket and never deliver it. He would simply turn and walk away, leaving the princess without ever knowing how he felt about her. The story ended and the candle burned low, casting long shadows across the room. I lit the second candle and dove into the next box. There was a guitar pick with a heart carved into it, a half-written song, and a ticket stub from the Winter Palace where the young man had finally worked up the courage to tell the princess how he felt. But by then it was too late. She had already fallen in love with someone else. The third box contained nothing but a single glove, its mate lost somewhere in the shuffle of time. The fourth box held a torn drawing of a girl with flowing hair, a broken music box, and a half-melted chocolate bar. Each item whispering a forgotten memory, a love unspoken, a dream deferred. As the night wore on, I read through old journals, each page filled with stories of adventure, romance, and daring feats. These were the adventures of a young man who had loved and lost, who had traveled the world trying to fill the void in his heart, who had climbed the highest mountains and sailed the wildest seas, all in search of a love that was true. But now he was old and alone, his heart a withered thing, his spirit broken. And so he spent his nights rum family history, poring over old letters and photographs, reliving the memories of a life well lived, a life full of love and laughter, a life that had once held so much promise. He traced the outline of a woman's hand in the fading candlelight, each wrinkle increased a roadmap to a memory, a shared joke, a stolen kiss, a moment of pure bliss. His fingers trembled as he reached for another photograph, a younger version of himself staring back. His eyes full of life, his smile bright and easy, his hair a shock of unruly brown. In another picture, there was a girl with eyes as blue as the winter sky, her hair the color of spun gold, her smile as sweet as summer honey. They stood together on the steps of a grand staircase, their arms around each other, their love a silent promise in the frosty air. But as the night deepened, the shadows grew longer, and the flickering candlelight danced in his eyes, bringing back a lifetime of memories, some joyful, some sorrowful, all of them real. He closed his eyes against the ache in his heart, the pain of a love that had been, and a future that could have been. For a moment, he was young again, his heart full of hope, his eyes fixed on the girl of his dreams. Then he opened his eyes and let out a shaky breath. The girl of his dreams was gone, but the memory of her love remained, a quiet echo in the chambers of his heart. And so he sat there in the cold, dark room, surrounded by the ghosts of his past. The faint glow of the candlelight illuminating the lines on his face, the worry lines etched deep by years of longing and regret. He dipped his quill into the ink, his hand shaking slightly as he began to write a letter. The fire may have died down to glowing embers. The wind may have grown colder outside, but inside, in the quiet of his room, he found solace in the simple act of writing, pouring his heart onto the page, reliving the memories that made him who he was. For in the end, it wasn't the length of his days that mattered, but the depth of his love, the warmth of his memories, and the quiet dignity of a life well lived. He wrote until the candle burned low and the shadows grew long. He wrote until the pain in his heart eased and the ache in his bones grew dull. And when he finally stopped, he felt a sense of peace settle over him like a soft blanket on a cold night. He folded the letter carefully, his hands gnarled but gentle, and tucked it away in the top drawer of his desk, next to the glove and the drawing and the half-melted chocolate bar, silent testament to a love that had endured the passage of time. Part 7. The train to somewhere. The old man stood on the platform watching the train. It was a cold gray morning, the kind where the world seemed to be asleep, and the only sound was the whistle of the wind through the weeds and the old man's cough. The air was thick with moisture and the ground was wet from a recent rain. Pulled his coat tighter around him, his breath misting in the air like a sigh. The train was late, but not late enough to make him miss it. He had all morning, or rather he had all the time in the world. There were no announcements over the loudspeaker and no one else on the platform. Never was anyone else on this platform. This was his stop, his station, his solitude. The train arrived silently, a phantom emerging from the morning mist. The old man stepped onto the train car, its metal wheels sighing softly against the tracks. The train lurched forward, then began to move with a slow, steady rhythm. The old man sank into the worn seat, the train's gentle rocking a lullaby from another era. The world outside the window was a watercolor painting of muted colors. The sky was the color of a dove's wing, the trees the color of old bruises. The sun, if it were out, would have been unable to pierce the heavy fog that hung over the landscape, muffling the world in hushed tones. The old man closed his eyes, the faint smell of coal smoke and something sweet like cinnamon wafting through the air, bringing with it a phantom warmth. The rhythmic clatter of the train was a comforting counterpoint to the silence of the world outside, a lullaby that had once been the soundtrack to his life. He could feel the faint vibrations of the train beneath him, the subtle shifts in momentum, the gentle sway as it navigated the curves in the tracks. Jolt, each lurch was a whisper from the past, a secret shared between him and the train. Outside, the world was a blurry canvas of gray and white, the trees blurring into one another, the fields melting into the hazy distance. The old man saw their fleeting faces, the young lovers, the weary worker, the curious child, and he knew their stories without knowing their names. He saw couples who boarded the train hand in hand, their laughter echoing in the empty space beside him. He saw mothers with children, their voices ringing with a joy that warmed his heart. He saw businessmen, their briefcases in hand, their faces grim, their steps hurried. And he saw friends, their shoulders touching, their voices low and intimate, sharing secrets and dreams. They were all going somewhere with a destination and a purpose. But he was going nowhere. His journey had no end. His destination was oblivion. He watched them board the train, their lives unfolding before him like a panorama, and he felt a pang of something akin to envy. For a moment, the station came alive with the bustle of activity. People hurried across the platform, their voices echoing in the vast space. The train, a metal dinosaur, hissed and chugged, its breath a plume of white steam against the gray backdrop. Its arrival announced by the piercing whistle that cut through the morning stillness. And as the doors slid open, revealing the worn, velvet seats and the aisle carpeted in shadows, the old man rose. He adjusted his coat, smoothing out the wrinkles, and walked toward the door. As he stepped onto the train, the doors slid shut, sealing him in a world of hushed tones and fading memories. The train pulled away from the station, carrying with it the echoes of laughter, the murmur of voices, the warmth of life. And the old man, enveloped in the train's melancholic embrace, was left with nothing but the ghosts of memories and the rhythmic rumble of the tracks beneath his feet. A lone figure standing on a deserted platform, the last vestiges of warmth fading into the encroaching gloom. The mournful whistle of the train echoed in his ears long after the last speck of the disappearing train had faded from view. The station, once alive with the promise of arrivals, now stood as a monument to departures, a silent sentinel at the end of a trackless road. Part 8. Marriage and Hope. When they told me I had cancer, my wife and I were getting ready to start our family. We had just found out that we were expecting our first child, and I remember just holding her and rocking her and telling her that everything was going to be fine. I don't think she really understood what was happening. She was probably just tired of me being so emotional. But it was a difficult time. But we made it through. You know, we leaned on each other. We cried together. We prayed together. We went through all the emotions together. I think for any young couple, it's important to have that unity, to know that you're in this together, and to lean on each other for support. But having that during a time like that, it makes all the difference. My wife is my best friend. I mean, obviously, I hope she doesn't watch this, but she is my best friend. And without her, I wouldn't be here today. So I'm grateful to her for sticking by me and supporting me through all of it. I remember when I got sick, there was a point where I had lost my sense of taste and smell. And I remember her coming up behind me and just wrapping her arms around me and kissing me on the cheek and just being like, "I love you." And I didn't even know that she was there. I mean, I could smell her, could taste her, but I didn't know that she was there. It was one of those moments where I was like, wow, like I'm so grateful that she loves me and that she's here for me. We have 2 kids now, a boy and a girl. And they're the reason why I get up every morning. They're the reason why I do what I do. I want to be able to provide for them and protect them, and I want them to be proud of me. You know, I want them to know that their dad loved them more than anything in life. And I want them to know that their dad was brave, and that he fought, and that he never gave up. The wedding was beautiful. It was a perfect day. It was in the countryside. It was very simple. Just a small ceremony with close family and friends. The reception was amazing. Everyone was dancing and celebrating. It was just a joyful occasion. I remember walking down the aisle with my daughter. She was my best man. And I remember looking at my wife and just feeling so much love and happiness. It was like the perfect moment in time. Everything was beautiful. The flowers were white. The dress was white. It was just a very soft, dreamy focus. The camera work was very slow. There were no rapid cuts or anything like that. It was just very emotional, and the music was beautiful. It was old school, like 1920s, 1930s. Very slow, very romantic. And I remember just being in this bubble, in this moment, and not wanting it to end. I think it's important to find things that bring you joy and happiness. For me, that's music. That's playing guitar. That's singing. That's performing. And so I try to find ways to incorporate that into my everyday life. I also try to make time for the things that are important to me, like spending time with my family and friends, or just taking a few minutes each day to relax and enjoy the little things in life. I think it's also important to be present and to appreciate the moment. So often we get caught up in the hustle and bustle of everyday life, and we forget to stop and appreciate the beauty that surrounds us, or the people that are around us. So I try to make a conscious effort to be present in the moment, and to appreciate the people and the things that are important to me. There are times where it's difficult, but I think it's important to keep going. I think it's important to have hope. Hope is a powerful thing. It can help us through the tough times, and it can keep us going when we feel like giving up. I believe that there is always hope, even when things look their darkest. We just have to keep believing and keep hoping for a better tomorrow. Part 9, A Father's Quiet Joy. I have a question for you. What is your favorite memory? Is it a vivid, almost painful recollection of a moment from your childhood? A memory that when you think about it brings a smile to your face and maybe even a tear to your eye. Well, I have a quiet memory that I revisit from time to time, and it's one of my favorite memories because it's so peaceful. Let me take you there. Close your eyes if you like. Imagine a large house, not an extravagant mansion, but a house filled with life and laughter. Picture a worn, comfortable armchair by a window. Now visualize a man in his mid-60s sitting in that chair. He's well-read. You can see the lines on his forehead and around his eyes. They tell the story of a life well-lived. A life full of smiles and maybe a few tears, but mostly smiles. This man is thinking about his life, about his journey. He remembers the good times, the challenges he's overcome, and the people he's loved and lost. He thinks about his children, their weddings, their graduations, the day they were born. He thinks about his wife, how she used to sit in this very same chair reading a book. He could feel her presence here beside him. Even though she's gone, this chair holds the memory of her. It was her favorite spot. He had 4 children. The youngest, a son, reminds him of this day. Today is his youngest son's birthday. He's 30 years old today. Where did the time go? The man thinks about his son when he was just born, a tiny little bundle of joy, all skin and bones with a full head of dark hair. His son was beautiful, and he remembers the pride he felt holding his newborn son for the first time, the quiet joy that filled him, the responsibility he knew he now had, the fierce love he instantly felt. He looks at his hands, wrinkled and aged, but he sees in them the strength of a father who worked hard to give his children a good life. Hands that have held his son, his other children, his wife, his parents. As the man sits in his chair, he hears a song playing. It's coming from the street outside. It's a sweet lullaby. He listens to the melody, swaying slightly in his chair as he thinks about his son. Who is he? What is he doing right now? The man smiles. His son called yesterday. He's coming home for his birthday. The man's heart fills with warmth. Now let's bring you back to the present. Can you still feel the tenderness of that moment? The love that the father had for his child, the responsibility, the quiet joy. We wanted to capture that emotion in this artwork. There are many ways to show action or movement in a painting. Bold brushstrokes, bright colors, dramatic lighting. But stillness can also express a powerful message. We thought a still painting would be a nice change of pace, something different. Hope you liked it. What about you? Do you have a quiet memory? If so, we'd love to hear about it in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and share. Thank you for watching. Till next time. We've reached the final part of this memory, the 10th and last part. And if you're new here, welcome. You can find the rest of the parts linked below. Let's get into it. Part 10. The passing years. Show seasons passing over an old house. Rain, snow, falling leaves, blooming flowers. Include shots of aging hands, an old calendar, forgotten letters. Use time-lapse style mixed with poetic slow motion. As the years pass by, the house stands silent and still, a sentinel of time, its secrets it does hold. The wind whispers tales through the window pane, of laughter and love that once filled every room. Now let the gentle rain fall on the roof's old gray, each drop a tiny drumbeat in a song of days gone by. Let falling leaves in hues of gold and red paint memories on the ground where children used to play, as winter's icy breath upon the windowsills forms patterns like age upon a life well lived. And in the garden, let the flowers start to bloom, a silent symphony of colors in the quiet gloom. Let the hands of time on weathered wood appear, each line and wrinkle telling stories of the years. the turning pages of an old forgotten book, where dreams and hopes once danced, their moments they did cook. And on the wall, let shadows lengthen and grow, as if the day itself is weary from the weight of all it knows. For in this house, time seems to move at a different pace, a timeless moment captured in this empty space. Upon the hearth, a single log burns low, its embers glowing, embers of a love aglow. In the corner, a chair sits empty, yet it seems to me that someone just might rise from it. Their presence I can feel. Through dusty windows, light streams and so faint, it paints the motes that dance in sunlit golden rain. And in the stillness, I can almost hear the sound of voices echoing, forever lingering around. Forgotten letters, tied with faded string, enclosed in envelopes where love letters used to cling, whispered promises and dreams of days gone by, reflected in the tear that glistens in my eye. Oh, the house remembers every joy and every tear, each footstep, each embrace, throughout the passing year. It stands as a monument to lives that touched its door, a sanctuary of memories, forever to be adored. Within these four walls, time itself stands still, a testament to lives that touch this hallowed sill. And as the final moments of this tale unfold, the house of memories, a story to be told. In every room and every corner, echoes of the past, a final glance, a lingering touch, a love that meant to last. The house of memories, where silence reigns supreme, a timeless reverie, a waking dream. And so we reach the end of this nostalgic reverie, a journey through time, a silent symphony. The house of memories, where echoes softly sigh, awaiting whispers of the days gone by. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more content. And if you'd like to watch the previous parts, you can find them linked below. Till next time, stay curious.